on the shifting global landscape from geopolitical and economic uncertainty to evolving travel trend. The panel will explore how industry leaders are navigating this disruption and driving sustainable growth in a complex world. And moderating this panel, we have none other than Mr. Achin Khanna, Managing Partner, Strategic Advisory, Hotelivate. Achin heads the firm's strategic advisory practice, and with his experience in consulting field, he ranges from feasibility analysis to strategic consulting both in India and internationally. Joining him on stage are Mr. Alan Watts, Executive Vice President and President Asia Pacific, Hilton, Mr. Dimitris Manikis, President Europe, Middle East, Eurasia and Africa, Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, and Mr. Rajeev Menon, President Asia Pacific, excluding China, Marriott International, and Ms. Serena Lim, Chief Growth Officer, the Ascott Limited.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and so nice to see a packed room. Welcome to HICSA. Serena, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time. It's a pleasure to have you on this panel. Dimitri, you and I haven't met in forever, so glad to see you on stage.
But it's nice that you're in a distance now. It's nice.
Yes, at least we're building some distance. Yeah. Great. Okay, let's jump right in. Ladies and gentlemen, this panel was designed to talk about the general theme of the entire conference, leadership on a world on fire. And as I stated to those of you who were in the owners' meet this morning, we thought of this about 7 or 8 months ago, and little did we realize how true it would be. One can hope that the announcements from the West this morning hold good, and that we're indeed seeing some improvements overall. But I wanted to start, everyone, by stating that while it is true that leadership when the world's on fire is not just about leadership, but it's also about how leaders navigate situations that have transpired as a result of geopolitical events and whatnot. And really today, the question and answers I'm going to tailor to you are not as much about your hotel companies or what you do professionally on a day-to-day basis, but what you do as leaders. And we're hoping that everybody can take something away from that. With that, Serena, I'm going to go to the very end and ask you to take no more than 15, 20 seconds, just name, title, what do you do, so that people have a quick introduction on where you're from and what you do here.
Sure. So my name is Serena, and I'm the Chief Growth Officer at the Ascott Limited. We are a Singapore headquartered company focusing on the hospitality space, including the living sector. So I have a global role. We have around 1,000 properties globally and about 180,000 keys. So brands which you will be familiar under our portfolio include the Ascott, Oakwood, Somerset, Citadines, Life, just to name a few. So it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dimitri? I know you. Everybody else knows you.
No.
Let's go.
What do you want me to say? Oh, who am I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I've got an identity crisis. Hi, I'm Dimitri, and I'm the president for Europe, Middle East, Eurasia, and Africa for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Half Indian by now, although Greek in origin.
Thank you. And Raj?
Raj Menon. I think most of the industry, I am honored to have many colleagues and partners here, so I'll keep it short. I run Marriott International for Asia Pacific. The real highlight for me is start of this month, I finished 25 years with Marriott, so it's been a great journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan, please.
Alan Watts, the president of Hilton for Asia Pacific.
Thank you. Short and sweet. And Alan, I'll stick to you. Everyone, my very first question is the obvious one, I guess. Is the world really on fire, or do you think we've become more adept at noticing and managing these flames? Also, Alan, what feels fundamentally different, if anything, about this crisis versus previous ones?
I found the question, for the audience, we get the questions in advance. I found the question interesting because this industry, particularly in India, to feel that this is anything more than a short-term disruption is interesting. I mean, this is the industry that just navigated COVID when 60% of the world supply was closed. I mean, we've been in the hospitality business as Hilton for 106 years. So, you know, the industry has become a specialist at managing short, medium, long-term disruption. COVID was a 3-year crisis. 2008 was a crisis. Every war, every stock market crisis, every hiccup. And reasons to be proud, particularly of this room, is through COVID, India didn't lose a single hotel. And COVID was a zero-sum revenue game. So for every hotelier that's in the room worried about short-term revenue as the world reroutes, of course our hearts and minds are with people in the Middle East and concerns for them and their family. We have a big business in the Middle East. But in terms is the world on fire, in the context of what's before us in India, or the experience level of what we've navigated in the past, short-term revenue disruption, this feels like, as much as it's a challenge at the moment, in the greatest scheme of things compared to what we've tackled together, it's a smouldering ember.
Agreed, and I think the general sentiment here, Raj, has been that this is a blip in the big scheme of things. But would you echo what Alan says, or would you conversely also feel that in a world where we live quarter on quarter, and you heard a little bit of that when Puneet Chatwal was getting interviewed, this has the potential to disrupt listed companies, especially such as yours?
You know, Achin, I think volatility is now the new baseline that we all operate with on a day-to-day basis, right? Alan touched on various crises that we've, as an industry, faced. To me, two things are very important as a leader. One, you focus on what you control versus what you don't control, right? And two, you learn every day to pivot quickly, right? And when you think about the current crisis, you know, many companies are focused on Asia for Asia now, right? And there are many other ways to pivot. Just this last month, we've got markets in my part of the world that were showing RevPAR growth of 40% and negative RevPAR growth of 6%, right? So you have to learn to pivot. You shift priorities very quickly, and you focus on what is in your control, and then work towards that.
Got it. Dimitri, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try and list a bunch of different fires that are beyond just the geopolitical events we're dealing with today, and try and get all of your combined perspective on each of them. So fire number one, and I'm going to read this out. I'd love your perspective. You know, every few years we witness that the industry does go through challenges that are beyond our control, which are geopolitical in nature. And I'm not limiting this to Russia, Ukraine, or the current scenario in Iran. We had the 2008 financial meltdown. We had the SARS virus 20 years ago. We had COVID recently. Yet, the global travel demand bounced back every single time. And what is it about hospitality, is the question I really had, that makes it so resilient? And you know, as a corollary to that, what can investors learn from this short-term hit and long-term recovery duality that our industry brings to the table?
Look, for me, I mean, I've got a family of two girls. The first thing that we talk about is where we're going to go for our next holiday. That's the only thing that brings us together. I think one thing that we realized after COVID, that if you would read or rewrite the Magna Carta today, travel would be a human right. It would be part of our human rights. And that to me is a great acknowledgement. Travel is part of our lives. That's one. Second, despite what is happening in the world, I said it so many times, we're the industry that brings people together. We're the industry of peace. If we really want one day to have world peace, we all need to work in the hospitality industry, because it's the industry that brings cultures together, religions together. It makes you come closer to something that you haven't experienced before, even if it is, you know, a beautiful, I don't know, street food in the back streets of Goa. And you just realize that there's another world from the bubble you've been living. Or you go to a beautiful, obviously, the most beautiful Greek islands, the most beautiful islands in the world, which are Greek. You go to a beautiful Greek island and you meet this amazing Greek family, and and you eat lots of fettuccines, and the world looks a better place. So that's what the industry is all about. And I think, and Puneet, I think said it very, very clearly. Every year when there is an event, rebound comes closer, shorter and shorter. Why? Because we need to engage. We need to travel. Nobody can take this away from us. They can take so many things away from us in the global scene, but nobody can take away from us the need to reconnect with our families, with our peers, with our friends, and only hospitality can do that. And I'll tell you something. If you look at your phones, and forget about 30% that are pictures nobody wants to see, but 70% of the pictures you've got on your phones are related to a hospitality event, a holiday, a weekend break, a restaurant, because restaurants are hospitality, a nice bar that you had a great time with your friends. That exactly is what we are. And that's why no matter what happens in the world, we're always rebound and we're always going to be traveling.
Splendid. And I'll add to that, if I may, Dimitri, just trying to put this from an investor's lens, what that should therefore give us all comfort.
Look, investors need to realize one thing: hospitality is a long-term game.
Yes.
You have to be here in the long term. If you expect that you get in hospitality and you get your return in 5 years, you better choose something else. This is a long-term game. He's been, Raj, he's been 25 years with Marriott, right? There might be in 25 years that people haven't made the returns that they expected, but they're still there because it's a long-term game. Yes, there are opportunities that you can, recycle your money like a lot of private equity does in 5 to 7 years. But if you really, truly believe in this industry, you need to realize that it's a long-term game.
Thank you. Serena, before I ask you a question on fire number 2, would you like to weigh in on the first one with regards to the entire geopolitical situation and how it's, just to add to what Dimitri said, how this is really a short-term situation, and do you have some thoughts to share? And I would like to then pose the second question as well.
Sure. So I think, hospitality industry is one of the oldest industries, and as far as travel began, that's when we had hospitality. So I think the good news is that we're going to be there for the long term. Number 2 is that I think the question shouldn't be asked if it's on fire, but rather if we have built companies which are designed to cool down in a fire. And we have seen so many different types of disruptions happened in our industry, but yet the industry becomes stronger, it becomes more resilient. And I think for all of us, and all of us have a very strong passion towards what we do, and we safeguard, the industry, very much so. In, COVID, for example, all of us worked very, competitors, industry stakeholders, we worked very closely to reignite and to put in all the effort, right, to put back travel into everyone's diaries. And I think the difference that we have now today is that travel is something that is part of our lifestyle. We all travel, for multi-dimensional reasons. It's, it could be work, it could be for play, it could be for social reasons, it could be for wellness. There's so many reasons, so multi-dimensional, and we're all wired to travel. So we'll find a way to travel. We will reroute. We will get there somehow, somewhere. Accessibility nowadays, it's so more straightforward, it's more affordable. So we'll get there. And so for us as leaders, it's about adapting. It's about making sure that where our guests wants to go, we will be there. It's about being nimble, right? And to use these opportunities to continue to build the company that will cool down the fire, right? And to have resilience and the learnings of resilience compound itself as we get through one disruption to another disruption. An interesting story during COVID was, when all of us were locked in, and we had a lot of time to socialize and meet people because we were locked in. Meeting a few people, and they go, so Serena, which industry are you in? And I said, the hospitality industry. And they said, so what do you do in hospitality? I said, I do growth. I grow, I expand the brands, I go and plant more flags globally. And they said, I'm so sorry to hear that. But look at where we are today, whereby, the industry has, again, shown resilience, shown the ability to bounce back. We love the industry even more. We are wired for travel. We work together in the industry. So what's there, to fear, in my opinion?
Thank you. And I'm going to stick to you, and then I'm going to request the gentleman to weigh in on this next one as well. So, like I said, we're talking about a few different fires. The one that's really being chatted about a lot is the perceived disruption on the back of technological innovation or artificial intelligence, in other words. And it's believed by some that we're on the cusp of technology taking over pretty much every industry, and it's a fire in itself. There's an argument that hospitality may suffer because robots may take over, and you may have the personalization and the human touch that Dimitri talked about going away. And my question is, what will hospitality leadership look like in a world where technology may drive decision making? And does AI strengthen brands or weaken them?
So I'll take that first. So I think when we look at leadership in an AI-powered era, I think there are a few things to think about. I think the first thing to think about is what to automate, and you talk about automating the routine, so that we are also able to free up more time for guest engagement to improve operating efficiency. The other thing to think about is what do we want to elevate with AI, and we want to elevate moments that matter. So in the case of, for example, very much talked about is about the guest journey and removing friction in the booking engines. And that's something that we are also doing in terms of being able to use AI to create that personalized journey in the booking process. And finally, the next one that we think about is what to protect, right, with AI. And one of the things that at Ascott, what we want to protect is, for example, sustainability performance. And some of the measures that we're looking at with that is, for example, using AI in, for example, in being able to use guest data, being able to understand, again, guest preferences, and to use that in terms of channeling that sustainability performance in us. So I think AI is for us here to embrace. I don't think it's something that we should fear.
Sure.
I think that it's about being clear as to what we want to automate, what we want to elevate, what we want to protect. And I think these are the basic things that we at Ascott tend to look at.
Sure. Alan, Serena sees AI as an enabler, and is this fear just overstated and you think silly?
Achin, you're the first person I've heard talk to it as a fear or a fire. I'm sort of brought to you by when the fax machine was invented, was anyone ever going to travel again? We went through this inherent fear in video conferencing, and is anyone going to travel again? To my knowledge, AI is not in the business of serving drinks. AI is not in the business of selling hotel beds. And then to the earlier point, ultimately this room is sophisticated, so we all agree with the human need for travel, and we all agree of the macroeconomics of travel and tourism and where it's going in the world. And the issue I want to take, and I'll build on AI, was something that Dimitris said, which is we have to make sure as an industry that the asset class performs in line with retail, in line with residential, and in line with commercial. So 25-year payback can't be acceptable. If we don't want to lose precious real estate to residential developers, precious real estate to commercial developers, we've got to use every tool in the toolkit to enable best-in-class owner returns or better returns on our assets for our industry and lodging in India particularly, to reach its rightful place as a major sector. And in that vein, there is a race in AI, particularly in the big brand houses, and who's investing and who are you backing, ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Microsoft, to enable two things. One, better guest experience. AI doesn't know data unless you tell it. So you take AI behind the firewall, and it can tell you your last stay, your next stay, your preferences in a faster way to your team members than it ever has before. And you can use AI to automate in a more efficient way. Where the proof needs to come in the pudding there is customers should then be more stickier to their experiences in your respective hotels, our respective hotels, and GOPs should go up. And if they don't, then we're not using it to its potential. But I certainly don't think it's a fire or a threat to the industry. It's certainly a strategic imperative that people invest widely in it or adopt it.
Fair enough. Raj and Dimitri, anything with this one or not really? I think we've covered it.
No, as Alan said, I think my belief is AI has the potential to supercharge our industry broadly. And again, it's what we have in our control, what we manage. You know, I think about days where you're creating incredible customer experience while breaking down so much of the menial jobs that our associates do every single day.
Yeah.
And to Alan's point, increasing profitability for our owner partners, right? Designing hotels and building them in time, record times. And when you think about what happens here in India, average 3 years to sometimes 10 years of construction timeline. I mean, it can go down to a year or less than a year, which would be a game changer, right? So I think it has incredible potential. We have to embrace it, but also be very clear where we want to draw the line. Right?
Agreed. So I'm going to stick to you, Raj, and I'm going to talk about what I don't think is fair to call fire number 3, because it's also not a fire, but it's an important topic nonetheless, and that's the evolving owner-operator relationship. We have, I'd say, roughly about 200 owners/investors in the room today, many of whom have hotels with all of you on the podium here. My question is the following. Today's owner demands stronger returns, more flexibility, and sometimes even more control. Do you see that as an evolution of the owner-operator relationship in this part of the world? And does the future of branding involve a different equation going forward?
You know, I see it as an evolution of getting to better understand each other. I don't necessarily see more of pressure from one side versus other. I think many brands invite owner community to partner with them. Coming out of COVID, the industry at large has really built strong bonds with the owner community. And I can tell you on our side, over the last number of years, we have signed record number of rooms year after year after year. Over 50% of our room signings every year are coming from our existing partners. You wouldn't be doing it, right, if there wasn't the real trust and deep relationships. And we've been through a couple of pretty rough cycles like COVID. So I think for those who view those partnerships or relationship as a threat, they've just got a negative perspective versus, you know, from my point of view, being very clear on getting to understand what each owner's perspective is and working your way through those issues. Now, the real difference in our part of the world versus the West, typically, you get a lot of institutional capital on the West. Here, we have lots of individual partners, but that's also what makes it fun from my point of view, right? So I think it's been an incredible journey, and I think what you see over the next few decades, this part of the world is going to be the growth story, and it's the partners that are here in the room that we are all going to grow with together. Indeed. So relationships matter.
Alan, I'm going to come back to you before I go to Dimitri, partly on the same point. So while relationships indeed have been repetitive and therefore beneficial and rewarding in India for Marriott, Hilton's also seen a very strong growth spree in the last 3 to 4 years, especially post-COVID. And we're starting to see Hilton grow in a very meaningful way in this part of the world. My question, again, partly alluding to the asset-light model where the owner demands more control and is therefore looking for either franchising or a looser relationship, and the market so presents as an opportunity because we're a growth market today. Is that something of interest to Hilton, and are you seeing that?
I think, sort of building on Raj's point, there's often, particularly you hear it more in conferences, in fact, than you do in the real world, which is often a consultant-facilitated conversation on the great divide between hotel brands and hotel owners. But yet, when you're working with your partners and you have a shared vision for a great team member experience and a great service that in essence yields a great service experience combined with a great product, gives you a great customer stay. A great customer stay gives you a great RevPAR premium. That RevPAR, well managed, flows through to GOP, whether it flows through to owner returns. There's no daylight in that conversation. There's not one sophisticated hotelier in the room that disagrees with team member experience, guest experience, top line premium, bottom line premium. So the daylight that we talk about often doesn't exist. It's true, and I agree with Raj, that there is quiet institutional capital that is hands-off and will let you get on in other markets. There is more single unit owners here, but I don't experience, and I'm sure the panel doesn't either, this tension that we seem to talk so readily about. In terms of then hands-on owners and the evolution of the industry in India and the industry everywhere, just think of the industry globally. Great hospitality leaders have taught people how to self-trade. The franchising business is by far and away the largest business in the industry globally. It dwarfs the managed business for Hilton, for Marriott, for everyone. So not only is there no tension there, the industry has become adept at teaching people how to self-trade their own brands. And so when you have a sophisticated owner that's very interested in the day-to-day operation of the of a hotel, you've really got a candidate for a self-trade environment and somebody that wants to trade a hotel. So if you think of the link between, particularly this market, if you think of the US as the world's largest lodging market, the Patel family, or numerous hundreds and thousands of Patels, is the largest franchise owner of focus service brands in the US, literally to the thousands. And we think of that as a franchise. Another way to think of that is really just self-trade brands, and each and every one of those decades ago were taught how to trade those hotels. So I think the tension that you're talking about, I would rephrase as not that it doesn't exist, but it's a natural evolution towards self-trading of brands. It's going to start in focus service, and like it has in the West, it'll move into full service brands and eventually into luxury as more and more competent people want to self-trade and have learned the business. And we should not only adopt it, we should encourage it.
Agreed. Dimitri, I'm going to pick up from what Alan spoke of briefly on the franchising model. Nobody understands that better than you do. And one thing to state is that for the last few years, Wyndham was probably standing alone in trying to grow the franchise business in India, while the other major brands or hotel companies were largely management contract driven. That's changed. And now you have a lot more competition, if I can call it that, where Marriott, Hilton, IHG, Hyatt, etc., everybody is quite open to the idea of certain brands being franchised. Do you see that as a welcome step in the evolution of the industry in India, or do you see that as competition, or both?
Best thing ever.
He's
doing a better job.
You saw the king in the back, right? He's dressed up like the one as well. So my dear friend is the king.
Alan is doing a better job. He's doing a far better job for me than I would ever do. He does it in every panel.
I can compete with everything you do with the exception of that suit.
That's the point. So no, it's welcome. It means that A, we were doing something right, and B, it's a beautiful world. It's a world full of opportunity. So why not? I mean, these guys are how many years? 100 years, Marriott? 100 years next year. 105, 110. We're only 17 years old, and they are copying us. Wow, that's an amazing story, right? And I've got to say, I mean, we are so glad that people can actually see the value of the franchise model, and I'll tell you why, because they've got some amazing brands. I mean, everybody has amazing brands, right? The more you get new talent in the industry, the more you get the new guys becoming the next leadership of our industry, the more franchising is going to grow. Why? because these people, they need to lead, right? And how can they lead? You know, if you look at in our space, right? We have a concentration on the top. We don't have change of leadership that often. It gives the opportunity for people to leave the brands and go and establish their own businesses. They become entrepreneurs. They open up their own companies. They open up their own consultancy. That gives an enormous opportunity for that young generation to actually lead the industry without being stuck with the brands that you don't see an evolution as you would see if you are an entrepreneur. So for me, best thing ever. I've been coming to this country for 7, 8 years now constantly, and it's amazing what I see. I see so many young faces. They're saying, you know what, I'm getting into the white label business. I'm going to open my own consultancy. I'm going to do an F&B consultancy. And that's amazing, because in our structures, we're kind of like, you hit the ceiling, and what do you do next? Let them get out there, let them grow. And franchises is a great opportunity. So absolutely, welcome. It's a great business, and the more they do it, the more prevalent it will become.
Dimitri, and I'm going to build on that, if I may, and then I'm going to go to you, Serena, on the same one. You spoke about this from an entrepreneurial lens. I want to ask the same question for the next fire, which is a very real fire that we're all facing as an industry, and that's the talent crunch. So from a professional lens, the truth of the matter is that hospitality, not just in India, globally, was seen as a career for life for many generations. That is no longer the case, at least for India and South Asia. I can say that with some conviction. Hotel schools are not attracting nearly the same number of youngsters that they used to. The tech world, the consulting world, the startup world is taking away our hoteliers. And it's not an aspirational industry. It's a very real fire. How are we going to solve it? And not just at the line level or the mid level, even at the leadership level. What do you think of that?
Look, again, I've got I don't know if Raj knows that, but my 26-year-old is starting her first job in hospitality at Marriott on the 13th of April. Be careful, man. Seriously. So she did her master's degree in finance, and she said to me, Dad, I decided I'm going to apply for a hospitality job. And I said, are you crazy? Have you seen what it does to our family? And she said, no, I think it's the best job in the world. And she gave me an example which actually relates to AI. She said that the more jobs AI is taking away from youngsters, the more hospitality is going to become an important industry for the young people to go to. Why? Because it's an industry that needs people. It needs talent, it needs vision, and it needs values and purpose. Because the more youngsters, you don't need paralegals anymore. You don't need all these jobs that AI is taking away. So my daughter said, I made the list of the jobs that AI is going to take away, and the job in the industry that AI will never replace, it's actually hospitality. So I decided that I'm going to join an industry with a bright future. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to use that. And I didn't show her how proud I was when she came up with that example, but that's exactly what she said. So for me, I'm not that scared. I think AI and the way the world is going and all that leadership challenges and the no purpose and no values, the more we portray the values of the industry and the purpose we bring, the more young people will come to us. Yes, we got a blip at the moment because a lot of people are saying, you know what is AI going to do to this industry? Are robots going to replace, No, it's not. And this is the biggest mistake that we're doing. We are not emphasizing enough that for us, AI is a blessing and is not a curse. AI is going to help us do so many different things. Food waste, energy, become more efficient. Instead of replacing the receptionist with somebody who actually looks at you in the eyes when they're actually checking you in. That is what we need to sell more. And the youngsters will come because youngsters need two things. At a time where leadership is synonymous to bullying, disrespecting women, aggression, and my way or the highway, our industry can become diversity, ESG, looking after people, looking after purpose and values. If we are the opposite of what people think values and purposes today and leadership, our industry will fly and will never have a problem getting those,
Let me
those
just
youngsters in.
build on that for a second.
I'm really sorry it didn't apply for Hilton. She tried, but she wasn't good enough.
Let me just build on that for a second. If you look at the top 20 great places to work in the world, like you've got members of hospitality companies, Disney, Marriott, Hilton, and others in the top 20 of aspirational places to work. So Great Place to Work ranks the top 500. Within the top 20, you've got hospitality companies. That's a post-COVID environment. That's amazing. And we talk about the tech disruption. Actually, the first disruption for AI has been to tech. You used to have coding teams of 10 people. Now you've got a coding team of one person that knows how to write code into AI, and the 10 people that used to bang it out, it's now being automated by simple AI models. The opportunity for us is we don't do a good enough job in talking about the amount of infrastructure, the amount of jobs in travel and tourism in general. It's 1 in every 10 jobs globally. Look at the spend in India in infrastructure. Look at the bright horizon of the amount of hotels that are under construction today. We don't do a good enough job, nor have we ever, at attracting talent. But here's the great thing about hospitality. It's not that hard. The fact that you're not banging out thousands of master's students with hospitality degrees, the majority of people in this room, the majority of general managers started in frontline positions. The power of hospitality is to take people in carrying bags and washing pots, and through the meritocracy of hospitality, they can go through the ranks relatively quickly, end up being general managers in any part of their own country or in any part of the world. So I know we talk about it as a fire. It is a fire, but it's not a fire that to the extent we need to do anything about, with the exception of tell our story better than we do today. But from a talent shortage, I'm not sure about others, I'm sure it's the same. Our positions are oversubscribed everywhere in Asia. So I know we worry about less people doing hospitality degrees, but again, with what Dimitris was saying with AI, we can make learning and hospitality easier, and we can train the next generation, and we should ourselves.
No, and the one thing
Achin, if I can just chime in on a couple of points. One, we all need to be very clear. India does not have a labor issue.
It doesn't.
There are 13 odd million kids coming out of colleges every single year. The country is still at record unemployment. China has the same problem today, right? So collectively, the problem sits in this room as an industry. We haven't done a good enough job in attracting this talent to our business and saying there is career for life, right? Like all of us sitting on this table. And we need to work harder with government. There has got to be a public-private partnership, right? And the government is starting to move now, right? For the first time, we've now adopted 4 hotel management schools in the country where we are hopefully going to be able to make meaningful contribution. In fact, tomorrow afternoon, I am in Delhi at their annual event at Pusa, where I graduated from some 38 years ago, right? And have never been back. Shame on me, right? I should have gone back. I'm going back tomorrow, but part of the responsibility is that we collectively as an industry need to do a better job in skilling talent, getting them ready for our industry. Because when you think about many parts of the world, most young kids start out serving at McDonald's or KFC or in a restaurant or in a hotel and so on and so forth. And then they branch out in other industries, right? So I think this is a collective issue. We need to do a better job in paying our people more. And again, there's many a debate about, oh, how does that impact profitability? Of course, there's potential to improve profitability, but productivity gains can be had. We just need to make sure we pay people well and we are able to attract them to our industry with a clear promise of a long-term career and growth. And global, how many industries are there where you can build a global career, right? One of the big things for the years I was working in India, and very, very proudly used to say, we have sent more Indian talent out of India than any other hotel company in this country, right? By a long shot. And I can today travel to anywhere in the world and see a young Indian leader running a hotel anywhere in the West, Middle East, Europe, anywhere, right? So these examples need to be talked about.
Indeed.
And tomorrow I'm taking one of our champions who's just come back from Japan, from running 2 of our big hotels in Japan. He's going to, be a leader in India, and he's going to become the face of starting to build out this real aspiration to come back to our industry.
But Raj and Alan, 2 things if I can just touch on them, and thank you both for, because one, you're absolutely right. It's not the shortage of human beings or people, it's the shortage of talent, and the bridge needs to be the one between the two. And I've always stated the same, we've always believed that we have enough and more quality people in India. It's just that the direction's missing a bit. And 2, nothing pleases, I think, a lot of us in this room more to hear senior leaders like the 2 of you state and acknowledge your part in what you could have done better and how you would want to do this going forward. And I think kudos for that one. But with that, Serena, if I may come to you, I'm going to move on to the next fire.
But maybe I could add on the on the people piece. I think that if you listen to the younger generation in terms of what they want out of a career, right? They're not looking for your sort of cookie-cutter current job, right? They are looking for something which gives them the impact, being able to do something meaningful. They want to have a good balance between being entrepreneurial, also, in terms of well-being as well. And I think it's for us then to also craft roles which will allow them to fulfill this interest of theirs, right? Because once you're able to provide roles which allow them to have this fulfillment, that becomes a career of choice for them. And I think that's very important to sort of highlight, because jobs in the industry could be one that could be very sort of like a cookie cutter job, a role, or it could be one whereby you're just operating as part of a larger system. But you can also convert these roles into something which are a bit more meaningful and impactful. And multitasking. So an example, with our brands, for Like, which is a experience-led social living brand, we rewrote a particular job. It's called the Ambassador of Buzz. And what they do is that they're part host, they're part problem solver, they're part community builders. And when you start adding these layers of different responsibilities, that allows individuals to be their selves, enjoy their job, and to do something which they feel has the impact, it really changes the way they look, in the industry, and to go and to understand that, hey, the industry is a very wide one, and a very unique one, and I can be myself, and I can, bring my skills and show an impact and bring an impact even at entry-level roles, which I think is very critical to continue to fuel the talent pool in the industry. So I think that's one. I mean, the other point that we discussed just now was also with respect to owner and operator relationship. Now, Ascott, we started, as an owner-operator. And I think, to us, it's about fit for purpose. The industry is wide and deep enough whereby it's a pairing of, like-minded owners and like-minded operators. Owners, we discussed, there are many different types of owners, right? Whether it's institutional, your high net worth, your funds, your REITs, your mom and pop. There's so many, they're so different. But what they're looking for is that value creation. What can I get with the brand to give me that value? And value comes in many different ways, and it looks different to different sorts of owners. The same thing with brands, right? Brands come in and they also provide business models, which are also different, that caters to different owner types and owner needs. So for us, we 30% of our revenues come from extended stay and long stay. So, our business model's a bit different. It's about resilience. So my point is that at the end of the day, the market is wide, the market is deep. It's about having, these sort of very transparent and open conversations in terms of expectations and delivery, because, and we all agree that hospitality is a long-term partnership. If you're looking at a short-term, sort of holding period in an asset, it may be the wrong industry for you, and it has to be a long-term, sort of relationship that's based on sustainable growth. And having these, conversations is critical to understand your needs, expectations, pairing it, and then that, I think, is a very good way to start the whole building block of a long and successful relationship. Same thing with, talent and roles, in the hospitality industry. So I think there's lots more to do. And, as we mentioned before, that, travel has become something which, is a lifestyle. And so we'll continue to see an increase, in domestic, in, intra-Asia, intra-regional, long-haul travel. And so lots more for us to do in the industry.
Thank you, Serena. Dimitri, I'm going to come to you, and then we're going to circle back all the way quickly. We have 5 minutes left, so I want to request for crisp answers. The fire number 6 is what I call it, is economic volatility, both domestically and globally, and the corollary of the cost of capital, more specifically in India and South Asia. Post-inflation, post-COVID, the inflation in India actually has been relatively high. Interest rates have been high. Currency swings have been wild. Gold has gone up by 60% in the last 1 year. Crude has gone up by 40% in the last 30 days. It's a volatile world, economically speaking. And the question I have, Dimitri, for you and for everybody else is, does the hospitality sector have the ability to absorb these dramatic and uncertain economic headwinds? What should investors be doing to manage this?
Look, I don't buy gold, so I don't care that much. But you know what? I wake up every morning and there are so many curveballs that you have to deal with that at some point you just become oblivious, and you like, you know what? As Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, you keep walking. That's my motto in life. I think that there's so many. I'll tell you a personal story. My dad, very wealthy guy, very wise man, died at the age of 94. Never went to school because of the war and the Nazis occupying Greece and all that. He told me repeatedly every time I was complaining about something. He said, "Look, son, I have 100 reasons to blame somebody else for my failures. The economy, Raj, Alan, but I keep on blaming myself because at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to make the critical decisions." There's so many things that every day we have to wake up in the morning and blame somebody else. I think we need to move away from that and just keep on going, because leadership is a very interesting. Leaders need help as well. We're all leaders here. Do you think we're not human beings, that we don't get in the morning and we don't get frustrated and we say enough is enough? But we have to keep on because our people are looking at us and they're waiting for us to do the right thing. So I don't care anymore if the inflation is what it is and where the gold is, because at every morning there's another curveball. So what am I going to do? Hide or just blame gold and inflation about all the big mistakes that I make or the wrong decisions that I make? I have to move on as a leader, because if I don't and I hide behind everything that is happening, what makes me? So that's one. And the same, I would imagine, applies for the investors. The investors, they're looking always for safe havens. They're not. 1 year, one day is gold, the next day is silver. The next day is data centers. There's no safe havens. You have to be agile enough and you have to be ready to make corrective decisions so you do the right thing for your business and your people. That's the reality we live in. And is the 3 envelopes rule, right? When you get a new job, prepare 3 envelopes. Envelope number 1, blame the previous guy. Envelope number 2, blame the economy. Envelope number 3, prepare 3 envelopes because you're next. That's what leadership is all about. So you got to navigate a very volatile environment. I don't care anymore. And I know it sounds egoistic or stupid, but you're going through hell, you keep walking.
That's one way to look at it. Raj, do you have something you'd like to add, or Alan?
Look, I thought your motto, Dimitri, was if you're walking through hell, make sure you wear a stylish suit. look, to your question, of course not. Of course, if costs outweigh revenue growth over an extended period of time, you will start to lose money and no business is structured for it. So let's not be silly. But within that, and of the fires that you've talked through, of course, short-term economic crisis is exactly what we should be focused on. That is the real fire. People will hire branded hotel companies, or entrepreneurs partner with a franchise partner as a safer entry into the industry, on the understanding that these folks, this room, purports itself as being capable of sailing in all weather. And whether that's the doldrums, whether that's a tropical storm, whether that is smooth sailing, what we as an industry have proven adept at doing for the last 100 years and moving is learning from each weather pattern and being able to adjust faster. In today's environment, what does that look like? It looks like making sure that you're leveraging scale in your supply chain to pass on discounts and protect from energy surges. In the past, it looked like microfinancing for people that were in trouble in the middle of COVID and everything in between. And so what we want from the industry is to pay attention to the now and not get lost in the tomorrow, not get lost in the geopolitics, not get lost in the headlines that we see on the news. The reality is we're selling 100% of rooms tonight. And how can we get the best-in-class owner return for our owners and business partners? How can our team members have the best experience? How can our guests have the best experience? So of the fires you get, I actually think that the economic condition in today is what we should be focused on and be mindful of our strategic plans for tomorrow. But having been in this market for a long period of time, I think particularly India, that's faced more challenges than most, is really good at it. It's really experienced and has a lot to be proud of, and we're proud to be part of it.
Achin, again, I said this, 25 years, I've seen many economic cycles, right? And if you think about volatility is the new baseline, I still remember the days when supply in every market was insanely high, interest rates were at 15%, you could only get loans for 10 years, right? Today, the world looks very different. We are on a cyclical high with some structural changes. I only talked about it a few months ago. Last year, we ended the year, and we have a large portfolio here with a GOP margin of almost close to 50%, right? That's return on investment today is fantastic. Interest rates, you can get as low as 9-10%. You can get 15-year loans. So reality today is a lot better than it was only a few years ago, right? And I think it'll continue to get better. India is on an economic, growth trajectory that is long-term, going to really represent decades-long growth story for our industry. And I think, again, we've got to focus on what is in our control when, you hit petrol at whatever, 110 or 98. And then just make sure you are in it for the long term.
Agreed.
That's the long and short of it.
Listen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Before we wrap up, I think if I could just quickly summarize, there is indeed enough and more to cheer about, and enough and more promise that is available. So while the world may well be on fire, to quote the famous philosopher Dimitris, Manikis, keep walking. And on that note, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Look after my little girl, Molly.
Thank you so much. Always a fun session.